Good afternoon, YouTube. I'm tired, YouTube. Whew. Not like that's, weirdest thing in the world for me, but I feel like I'm more tired than I usually am after a little bit of work. Oh, of course, I don't have any water in the fridge right now. Curses, 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 curses. But I have, I was playing with some aluminum table today, assembling it for a client. A very nice client. Kind of chatted with her on and off during construction. That's always fun. I can't say it's always fun, but it's usually okay. Only time that it got a little weird was I was doing a job one time and this guy was opening up his life story to me, and let's just say his life story wasn't all peaches and cream, and it kind of weirded me out a little bit. Not the biggest deal in the world, and look, people want to talk about stuff, they got to talk about stuff, but maybe talking about troubles in your life with your handyman is not the most appropriate thing in the world, but that's okay. All right. What are we doing today? We are working. We're working on our bug out boat, and we were working on our outrigger frame. We need to. Here, watch me. Gotta connect these. How are we gonna connect these? We're gonna connect them with screws and glue. All right. Screws and glue. Could I use just glue? Yeah, but that's a really bad idea. Could I use just screws? Yeah. But all woodworkers who are worth their weight in gold? I'm not worth that much. That's a lot. All woodworkers who are worth anything know gotta use glue. Today we have some Gorilla Glue. Gorilla Wood Glue, to be specific. I really like a lot of their glues and products. They're very good. So let's see here. We need to get one more extension cord, which is currently connected to my 3D printer cord. If only I could 3D print a support. Well, truth be told, trying to print something that size would be... you could certainly buy a 3D printer that had enough size to print something like this, and you could probably print it with enough infill to be somewhat similar to strength to wood, but since I can cut a piece of wood in a couple minutes and it takes me 4 hours to print something... In fact, if I was going to print this solid, it would probably take 6 hours, long time. 100% infill, oh my gosh, that would take forever. And I don't have forever. I'm getting older by the minute. In fact, speaking of age, I asked the client, how long have you been in this neighborhood? She said, longer than you've been alive. Cracking me up. Okay, so I think I'm actually going to... Where's the thing? Oh, come on. Why? Did not put something of mine in the right place. This is actually a prepper thing. This is a little waterproof match case, but it's not really waterproof anymore because I lost the O-ring, and it used to have a little striker on here. I don't know if you can tell. But for the moment, I keep my bits in here. Little bits and pieces. Put those back. This, and get back to my countersink so I can drill a little area for the head of the screw, and we have some lovely construction screws, 9 by 2.5. It's a T25 star drive. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and, now there is a fitting in the box, the star drive or hex drive. Well, I guess they are star. They're called like Torx heads, I think. So let's go ahead and open this guy up. Look at these beautiful babies. Now again, these are theoretically self-tapping screws, but because the wood that I'm using is pretty solid stuff. I mean, of course, it sounds kind of stupid, but it's not the softest 2x4 I've ever worked with, and it's definitely plenty dry. So I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill them. Just kind of makes my life a little bit easier. Okay, here, so pick our favorite drill bit. I would love to tell you what size. It's something about 7/64, give or take. Our wonderful drill master from Harbor Freight. This is the second one that I've owned. The first one kind of crapped out, but I did own it for about a, I don't know, year and a half. Pretty decent use out of it. Go ahead and set our clutch over to drill. If you're not, okay, let me explain this real quick since maybe not everyone watching this video knows what a clutch is. Clutch is probably not the best term for this. It's sort of like a torque setting adjustment. So if you're doing something where you don't want very much torque, like let's say you're screwing into a very thin piece of wood, a very small screw, you put it on 1 so that once you get a little resistance, it slips. If you want to do something and get it a little tighter, you increase it, and if you're drilling, you go ahead and set it to drill, and that kind of locks the clutch in there. So let's kind of line these up, give or take about how I want it, and let's just kind of double check. Okay, sort of like that. Let's see. It's kind of a funky angle. Actually, I can darn near go straight through. But a reason I don't want to do that, okay, not to get super technical right here, but this bolt is probably stronger in shear and in tension than it is in bending. So what does that mean? Tension is if you're trying to pull this way, if you're trying to hold both ends and pull it apart. Compression is obviously very strong. Shear would be if you had a piece here and this piece wanted to go up and this piece wanted to go down, that would be shear. And then bending would be if this piece was going to bend. So the reason that I want to get the screws as horizontal as possible is because I want to keep it in the shear. If I start going like this, then I'm almost putting a little bit of bending into the screw. I don't really want to do that. So let's see here. Let's go. Of course, the other problem is if I go horizontal, trying to countersink the hole becomes kind of a nightmare. So we're going to go mostly horizontal, but not quite. And another thing to consider, this if I get really unlucky, I might accidentally hit one screw head. I might have screws hitting from, opposite sides of this because, as you can tell, these screws are relatively long, so I don't want them to hit each other. So what I'm going to do to prevent that is I'm going to put, let's see, so we'll put this one at about an inch and 2.5. In fact, let's go 3/4 and 3/4, I guess. Oh man. Let's see here. 3.5. Yeah, so let's go 3/4 and then we'll go 2 inches from there. So 2 3/4. I guess that's okay. And then let's see, horizontally or vertically, let's there. So maybe give or take right there. Okay. I don't know if I'm going to mark each one, but just kind of get a rough feeling here. Oh, I wish I could get these to line up a little better, but it's all right. Oh, let's put that over there. Okay, so. Okay, so I want to countersink both of these at the same time. So let me go ahead and let's call this A. Call this one A. And let's one quick tip for manufacturing: the more you can do the same step after itself, the faster you go. So rather than trying to drill, then countersink, then screw, then drill, then countersink, then screw. If I can drill a bunch, then countersink a bunch, then screw a bunch, kind of helps things go a little bit more smoothly. So okay, now what we're gonna do with this one, in fact, I actually like this method already. We're gonna go, I think we'll shift a little inside on these, so something like that. I was gonna have them kind of go like that, but yeah, whatever. Whatever. 1 3/8, give or take. So something like that. By the way, this triangle that I'm using is called a speed square. I would say it's a new invention. It's not that new, but it certainly hasn't been around the construction industry forever. They're super, 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 super cool. And as you can see, it's fairly quick to use. The old model has kind of like a bar and a little slide, and the 45-degree part is relatively small. The non-speed square, which if any of you have been working with tools for a number of years, you probably have the old non-speed square. I don't know exactly what they're called, forgive me, but oh man, see, this is what kills me, is that I go to my buddy's house to use his bandsaw to get a perfect 45, and his bandsaw cuts me let's see, we're too shy, so I got like 43 or 40, got like 43 degrees here, so I'm not quite flush, but what I'm going to do is sort of split the difference. Sort of. We're just going to sort of rough it. And I think I might even use my third hand here. By the way, when you're drilling on something at an angle, don't try to drill straight horizontal. The bit's going to walk up. So always start perpendicular to the surface, and then so here, we'll go a little bit like this, and then I'm going to slowly bring the drill down to the angle that I want. Same with this side. mentioned last time, always be very careful to drill and straighten out, and don't be getting all wonky with that thing. You're gonna regret it, especially because unless you have 5 of these drill bits, you probably only have 1, because you bought a kit like this, like I did, and it only came with 1 of every size. So if you break the 1 bit that you're using, you gotta go to the store and buy more drill bits, and that's a pain in the butt. All right, now let's go ahead, since I only have so much juice on this battery, and I only have 1 battery, unfortunately, because the one that came with my old drill, I used it so much it just decided to give up on life. Oh, you know what? I can actually leave this in here. Leave this in here. Normally you might want to secure the bit in the chuck, but I'm not too worried about that right now. So let's go ahead and let's see. I want it sort of like that. Same with the countersink. Don't try to start at an angle. Always start perpendicular. Probably the second most noisiest part of the whole affair. It doesn't cut very fast, and it's kind of designed not to, because you don't want to be drilling. It's not for drilling holes, it's just for kind of reaming out for the head. This one. Over here. I'm going to turn the fan on real quick, some of the sawdust. Oh, it's a beautiful day to be on the water, let me tell you. One of my subs was saying, hey, do you know how to sail? You should buy a sailboat. Well, I am definitely not the best sailor in the world, but I do know how to... Look, saying you know how to sail and saying you've sailed before, kind of not the same things, but I've spent multiple dozen days and hours sailing around. My father, bless his heart, used to have a sailboat, 22-foot Catalina, and we would go out to the bay in the Bay Area, northern San Francisco Bay Area, that is, and it was fun. We'd be out there in our boat and we'd be rocking all around. Now keep in mind, the only thing I didn't like about this boat is that it didn't have a keel. It had a centerboard. Now that's great for when you want to do shallow stuff. It obviously makes it great to trailer. But the problem with that is that without a centerboard, my dad and I were the ballast. So I always got this feeling that, we were going to tip the boat, and my dad's kind of crazy. We would go out in like kind of windy conditions that you wouldn't necessarily go out in a little 20-foot boat with a centerboard, but what the heck. So we go out and mess around and have fun, and most of it was fun, but I have to admit, some of the time I thought we were going to capsize and I was going to fall into the bay. I'm going to be honest. I thought I was going to fall into the bay. But I guess, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Alright, so let's get a little bit of glue on these puppies. And if you're wondering, why am I not trying to drill the bottom? Because I want all the holes to align. And if I try to drill the bottom, if it's not exactly right, it's not going to match up with the top. So we're going to drill the top, secure it, then come around and drill the bottom. If I had a lot more clamps, maybe I could try to clamp it, but the thing is, clamping stuff at 45 degrees, it's kind of a nightmare. They do make clamps that I could, that are a little more special purpose, but I only have dumb clamps. Okay, so let's get some glue on this bad boy. I'm trying not to use 2 hands on the glue. This stuff is... Usually you just want to put sort of not a huge amount on, but since I might have just a little bit of gap, I'm gonna be a little bit more generous than usual. Get back to my third hand here. If you don't use your feet normally for construction, you're missing out, because I tell you, they're super useful. They are super useful. Oh God, why is this thing being such a... Gotta keep it G-rated here. Why is it being such a pill? Such a son of a gun. It's kind of aggravating me. There we go. That's a little better. Okay, so this is A. We are not on the A side. We are on the non-A side. And let's, I should have marked it before I did this, but let's go ahead and see if we can't kind of find out where its home was. Something like that, I hope. All right, go back to our T25 Torx head. Back to our third foot here, our third hand, and cross our fingers. Now, another thing I'm going to do, before getting this one all the way in, I'm going to get the other one in. Because... Oh, come here, buddy. I lost my little Torx head. Do not try to over-tighten them. Sometimes you have enough torque in the drill, you can just keep driving it in, split the wood. It would be a shame if I split this right now, having put all this work in this little guy. Okay, so now that we have that done, I'm going to go ahead and... Oh, I'm tripping over my saw here. Let's go ahead and mark the middle of this. Kind of carry this line over. Oh, that's actually a little... That's not quite the middle. Middle's more like right there. Okay. That's still a little high. And then we're going to transfer that line down here. Remember, we have to drill at a 40... Let me see, are we on camera? Yeah. So we have to drill at a 45. We do not want to drill like this. That's going to be bad news. So let's go ahead and mark our distances. Let's come down about an inch. How about an inch and... how about an inch and a bit and 2 inches and a half, sort of. Okay. Oh, man, that gap is just killing me. Not the biggest deal in the world, but I need a chop saw, YouTube. If anyone wants to buy me a chop saw and ship one to me in the mail, I will be so grateful. I will put your channel sticker on the chop saw. I will, whatever I have to do to make that happen. You want to send me a chop saw, you're going to be like one of my preferred subscribers of the year. All right, let's go back to our drill machine. Remember, we're going to start perpendicular, and then we're going to gradually come into 45. Don't drill too far perpendicular, otherwise you break the bit. You have to kind of, there's just a perfect amount to do it. So let's go back. Number 2 hole. Whew, hot bit. So one thing I will mention is that because I'm hitting the head of the drill before I kind of get down that last little 1/8 of an inch, well, not theoretically, these holes are going to be just a little bit short of where, where I might like them to be. Ideally, I would have a longer drill bit, but I don't, so we are going to rough it. So we put one screw in to fix the piece in place. Oh, snap. Cardinal sin over here. Forgot to countersink that hole. Oops. God, this is such a dog trying to do it on this piece of plywood. Such a dog. Let's see if that's enough. Ooh, screws. What? That is barely enough. Just barely. So let's go ahead and grab this out. Cross our fingers, that's looking good. Alright, so that is our finished result. And let's take a look and see how we're doing for flush. Not too bad. So, on to the other side. How long is this video? 27 minutes. Oh my gosh. All right. Let's come back for more work on the bug out boat. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and keep prepping.